Directly from 42nd Street in Midtown Manhattan, New York. I am your host Harbin and you're watching my channel YOLO. You only live once.
Okay, let's talk about today's topic. Best high yield saving accounts for November 2022 and why you should have the high yield saving account. First, let's talk about the topic why you need to have a high yield saving account. Uh, so the high yield saving accounts, as you know, are essentially are accounts offered by banks, uh, should be FDIC insured, uh, and it's actually useful for your daily operating cash or your emergency cash. So are there other ways to basically keep the emergency cash or daily cash? Yes, you can check out my other videos on treasury laddering and the treasury bills to keep your emergency cash and the monthly operating cash. But still, you need a way to actually have cash accessible on a day-to-day basis. And the best way to basically have cash accessible on a day-to-day basis is using high yield saving accounts. Well, what's the difference between normal saving account and the high yield saving account? The only difference between the normal checking and saving account and the high yield saving account is that you are getting a better interest rate. Okay, so in the normal saving and checking account, you get still, even though the interest rates are quite high, the banks only pay you 0.1 or 0.2% at the most, which are peanuts and which is a waste of basically your resources. You should have the cash works for you, even when it is sitting idle in the bank. So there's no brainer that, okay, you should look for high yield saving accounts. Now, what is just the best interest rate is the way to look for high yield saving account? And that's not a good thing. You should also pay attention to whether uh, the bank is good enough or not. Even though if the bank is FDIC insures, if it goes down, recovering that cash will take you time. Okay, so you might be able to get the cash back because it's FDIC insured, but you have to basically go over uh, like quite a bit of maybe a couple of months to get that cash back, maybe more. And if the purpose of your emergency cash is to be available during emergencies, you cannot actually have that cash basically in a risky account, whatever the risk is. The risk is whether you are getting low interest rate or whether the risk is that you may not have access to that money when you need it. So that's first thing. So look for a bank which is healthy, okay, and the other thing is ease of transfer. Since you are actually using the main purpose of using high yield saving account to actually have cash available to you on a day-to-day basis or for emergency purposes, so the accessibility is very important. The best accessibility is if you can transfer this cash on a day or a 2 days notice. The other thing is that you should be able to transfer the funds online without basically talking to a person, or should be easy to establish in the sense that, okay, uh, it should not have too many restrictions. Sometimes in order to get the actual interest rate, you have to have direct deposits do set up, or you have to have some other conditions, have a minimum deposit. So all those conditions will actually prevent you from saving your cash into those accounts. So uh, the best bank from that perspective are the banks which don't have any minimum restrictions to earn the desired interest rate. Easy to transfer. That means you don't need to talk to an associate to transfer the money. The money should be able to transfer in 3 to 4 business days, at the most 5 business days. And it should be electronic transfer without any fees attached to it. So Okay, let's look at these six banks I have worked with, and I had money into it. But let's look into what are the interest rate they give. My first recommendation, the top of my recommendation is CIT Bank, and this is a smaller bank as such, but I have had good experience with it. Um, One, their interest rate has been at on the higher end. They are offering 3.25% now, 3.198 compounded, so it will be around 3.25%. Presently, I have invested around 100,000 in that bank and expecting 3,250 over the next 1 year if the interest rate holds. I have basically experienced no issue with the online transfer. At one point, I was able to transfer 250,000 in one shot. So that means they don't have any limits on how much money you can transfer in one shot, at least up to 250,000, which I have already tested. So there's no restrictions. And so that's actually a good point. The days it takes to transfer is 3 to 4 business days. I have never seen anything beyond 4 business days, but 4 business days were the maximum I saw, and I really recommend this. Even though the ranking is lower for me, but I think for everybody else, it should be the first ranking I recommend. Uh, I'll actually explain why my ranking is different for myself, okay, not for others. So the second one I actually recommend is Marcus by Goldman Sachs. Their current interest rate is 3%. I have around 50,000 in that bank. Total annual interest I'm hoping to get is around 1,500. They have an online restriction of 100,000. So that means you cannot transfer more than 100,000 in one shot on a daily basis. But up to 100,000, there's no issues. The transfer is better, faster than CIT Bank. I have been able to receive the money within 3 business days. But the only thing is that, okay, there is a limit of 100,000 on a daily basis. And they don't have any other way to transfer. Online transfer is the only thing, but the transfer is very smooth. And I wholeheartedly recommend that. It's a better, more healthier bank than CIT, but because of this 100,000, I think I recommend CIT Bank better. So the next one is the Merrill Edge preferred deposit. The Merrill Edge preferred deposit interest rate is 3.46%. I have around 150,000 in that account, anticipating total interest of 5,190 dollars. And they don't have any restriction on the transfer limit, but they do have a restriction on the opening of the account. So you have to have a minimum 100,000 in order to open the account to begin with. And you have to call in to actually open the account. So that means you cannot actually open the account online. You have to talk to an agent. Uh, and since it's a Merrill Edge, you have to actually talk to the broker. You have to have a self-directed CMA account with Merrill Edge in order to actually open this account. And the preferred deposit actually gets open in Bank of America and not in Merrill Edge. So that means you open an account in Merrill Edge Cash Management Account, CMA, and then inside CMA, you actually create a preferred deposit, which is get created in Bank of America, but it will be part of your CMA account. And you have to have a minimum 100,000 invested, and then you can actually invest in an increment of $1,000 or so. But the good point about it, if you have a Bank of America checking account, you can get the money transferred to your checking account in a day. So that means if you call before 2 a.m. Pacific Eastern time, then you can get the money transferred to your Merrill Edge account immediately. And then from the Merrill Lynch CMA account to Bank of America checking account, you can get the money or the same day transferred, but you will be able to access it next day. And there's no limit on the higher end. I have transferred up to 1.4 million in a day, and the, like I was able to access that cash next day. So that means was able to transfer it on Monday and was able to transfer like access and get a wire from that or cashier check of that on Tuesday. So that was the biggest benefit of actually having the very large preferred deposit. That's why for me that ranking is number one. But for everybody else, I think the CIT Bank is I will recommend as a top ranking because they don't have any minimum. You can open the account online and you can transfer attached to your checking account to it online. You can do everything without actually talking to anyone. Similarly, with Marcus by GS, you don't need to talk to anyone, any sales associate or any broker. But the very large preferred deposit gives you the best interest rate as of November of 2022. The rate is 3.46%. But in order to get that, you have to actually go through those restrictions. The other banks, actually, I had account with Sophie. Sophie actually used to provide 3%, but they have a restriction. That means you have to have a direct deposit of 500 in order to get that interest rate. Otherwise, your interest rate drops to 1.2%. So that's why I've actually moved most of my money out, and I don't have now the direct deposit with that bank. I had the account with the bank because the preferred deposit for Merrill Lynch didn't have the good interest rate when the interest rates were actually low. Same with the bread saving. The interest rate is around 3%. And the restriction is that you have 5,000 limit on a daily transfer online. And you need to call in order to transfer a higher amount. Sophie didn't have that restriction, so I was able to actually transfer online 250,000. So, but bread saving has that restriction. You have to call in order to make the transfer, and transfer does take more than 5 business days. So minimum of 5 business days. I have never seen the transfer happen before 5 business days. They seems to just sit on it for 5 days and then actually make it in like okay. So they sit for 3 days and then initiate the transfer and that takes 3 business days. So that's why I didn't like that. So I don't recommend those two. Lending Club is the worst of the three. I actually came to know after I opened the account and I had 100,000 in that account, and it took me almost 2 weeks to basically transfer it back because they had a $10,000 limit on a daily transfer, and they didn't have any option to transfer more amount, so which was really bad. So I don't recommend that account at all. I have closed that account after I was able to transfer back my money. So, so in short, like the high yield saving accounts are the best way to keep your emergency cash or a daily operational cash. And my recommendation is the top three accounts: Citibank, Marcus by Goldman Sachs, and Preferred Deposit by Merrill Lynch. If you're a Bank of America account holder, then I think Merrill Lynch Preferred Deposit will be the best option for you if you can basically stash away 100,000 or more in that account. If you like this, please subscribe to the channel, like my videos, and leave a comment because once you leave a comment, we can discuss what else we want to basically pursue. What other things will be good for retirement planning? Thank you.